Star Wars Episode 7. Yes. Star Wars The Force Awakens?
The DownUnder reviews.
So big news last week in the Star Wars world and in the sci-fi world in general is that Star Wars 7 has finally got a title, an actual subtitle they call it. Originally in the 1978 film it was just called Episode 4, and then apparently in the early 80s they decided to add the subtitle because of its popularity to A New Hope. You had The Empire Strikes Back and you had Return of the Jedi. So these are all subtitles that occurred to the original films, which I think most people appreciate who are into Star Wars. I certainly appreciated a shitload. It was awesome. And the reason that I appreciated them was because they're titles that alluded to what was going on in the film without directly saying what was going on in the film. A New Hope referred to Luke Skywalker and him learning the ways of the Force and actually rejuvenating the Jedi Knights, the people who held up the good side of the Force, even though the rest of the universe was governed by the dark side of the Force. Empire Strikes Back was basically the Empire striking back against the new Jedi uprising and also the Rebel Alliance. Return of the Jedi is a basic explanation about the fact that the Jedi are returning, even though the Empire tried to quash the Rebel Alliance, and even though their Death Star was blown up, they still tried, but the Return of the Jedi means that the Jedi have come back and they're trying to make good, be the winner of the universe, as opposed to the Dark Force. I don't think I explained that very well, but I think you get the general idea, is that the subtitles to these Star Wars films are basically describing the general concept of the film. Then you look at the prequels, which for me basically don't exist. The reason the prequels don't exist for me isn't so much because of the titles, but because the movies are just bad. They're George Lucas's greatest mistake, and I think it was a whole combination of factors which I'm not going to go into in this video, but mostly to do with his inability to access the type of passion that he had before, and his thinking that CGI was the key to creating a successful movie, when in fact the key to creating a successful movie, as people should know, is a convincing and story that makes you care, and convincing characters that make you care in a world that you actually are involved in and care about, with a conclusion that is ultimately emotional, whether it's satisfying or dissatisfying. The subtitle The Phantom Menace refers to a menace that's somehow like a phantom, and I think they're referring to Darth Sidious in the form of the Emperor, and I would consider him not so much a menace as an all-conquering, destructive, evil power that's literally taking over the universe. And I don't think menace was the right word to use for this, nor do I think the Phantom was the right word to use for this. Episode 2 of Attack of the Clones, there was no real Attack of the Clones except for at the end when the clones actually attacked the Federation because they were under the command of Yoda, even though they were an army that he'd never heard of about a week before the army actually attacked. And the Attack of the Clones is a kind of deceptive title because it sounds like the clones are attacking the protagonists of the movie, when in fact they're actually helping the Rebel Alliance, what is to become the Rebel Alliance, and the Jedi Alliance to overcome the forces of evil. So that's a very misleading title. The last subtitle of the prequels is called Revenge of the Sith, and again, I don't know how much this makes sense, because the Sith Lords in this film, they're basically not taking revenge on anyone or anything. They're basically just taking over the universe under the guise of the Emperor of the new Empire, the new Galactic Empire, and they're sending soldiers out to make a safer universe. And even though this is as a result of the dark side influence, I don't understand where the revenge concept comes in. Unless you're talking about they're revenging the attack of the clones or something like that, which again doesn't really make sense because they were attacking the Federation, which wasn't actually the Empire. So anyway, I give up on all that crap. So the new title to the Star Wars 7 film, which is a sequel to Return of the Jedi Episode 6, has come out, and they decided to call it The Force Awakens. Now that's an interesting title to look at, and still not sure entirely whether I love it or whether I hate it, and a lot of people have been divided on this issue. Some people are saying that they're thoroughly confused and that they're trying to allude to something that's just too big for a movie. It's not a basic description of what goes on in the movie necessarily. It might be just a general conceptual subtitle to create mystery and a marketing ploy, basically. People are now asking questions, things like, what's asleep? Has the Force been asleep this whole time? And if it's going to awaken, how is it going to awaken? I thought the Force existed everywhere in the universe, and it penetrated it and bound us, and it existed everywhere, and it really never went to sleep. It was just there always, and it was whether or not the Jedis were trained enough to use it to their advantage. So the fact that if it's asleep or not, I don't really get that. But anyway, it's up to J.J. Abrams and what he's doing. Some funny title suggestions have come up based on Lucas's past performance. Even though Lucas isn't directly involved with the latest film, these are some of the titles they came up. Star Wars, we can't blame George Lucas for this one. Star Wars, The Farce Awakens. Okay, Star Trek was totally my bad. This is not the movie you are looking for. Move along. These comedic titles were posted by Gizmodo.com, and I think they're a great allusion to the fact that this is a real test of the Star Wars franchise, and it will really tell us whether the new generation of movie watchers, as well as the older generation, will continue to watch the Star Wars series as they progress. Star Wars The Clone Wars is one example where they did, I think, a reasonably good at doing an animated series based on Star Wars, even though it was focused on the younger generation of viewers. Star Wars Rebels is another TV show which has come out this year, and it's slightly more adult focused, but still quite a good animated series. So on the TV side of things, they seem to be improving well, but this episode 7 is really going to be a test as to whether or not Star Wars is going to maintain a movie presence. So it's going to be interesting. Do I hate it? Do I love it? I'm not really sure, and to be honest, I don't know if I really care. The main issue is going to be, where is this universe going to take us? Where is this new movie direction going to go? I understand J.J. Abrams is very focused on practical effects and a very more fundamental plot and more grounded plot, as opposed to the airy-fairy CGI crap fest that was the prequels. But we'll see what he does, and I have a feeling he's going to do a good job. There's so much input and so much money now put into the film that I don't think it's going to be not a success. Certainly everyone's going to be curious, and the opening weekend is going to be fantastic. The true test of Star Wars is going to be whether or not the second and third week of the box office, and also its ongoing sales in terms of Blu-ray releases and so forth, are successful. But in the end, it's not really whether it sells a lot in the films, and it's also not whether or not the critics love it. It's basically whether you, the viewer, the person who doesn't go on the internet and talk about it, or doesn't go onto the newspaper and talk about it, enjoy the film and are moved by the film and think that it is an appropriate addition to the Star Wars canon. So what do you think? Do you think the new title is an appropriate thing, or do you think it's a bit mysterious and weird, or do you seriously just like hate the crap out of it because it makes like no sense and it seems like just some kind of marketing ploy where they've just applied the most mysterious, awesome, weird name they can possibly to it without it really meaning anything? Put in your comments down below, and if you enjoyed this film, please subscribe and watch another video. Star Wars!